Make it shorter. Cool beans. Man, I hope I look cool with these headphones on. Ow! That was my face. That was recorded.
That's not how you start.
And welcome to the first ever podcast that does not have a name.
That's funny. Hope I look cool. Slap.
Man, I hope I look cool and I don't have a black eye. Alright, let's get these levels right. So I think that mine is, I can turn me down pretty low there, but that's a pretty good level. How do you like yours?
I think I like, up a little bit.
Up a little bit?
Up a little bit.
Up a little bit?
Keep going,
Keep them going. Oh, yeah.
I think right there, yeah.
Ooh,
Sounds
like
good.
that? That's good. Cool. Alright. Cool beans, man. Well, let's do this thing. All right, then. So, got Bobby Drummond and Theo James here at the Next Core in downtown St. Louis, and first time that we're messing around with one of these podcasts here. So, not really sure how it's going to go and what exactly all we're going to talk about, but I think it's going to be one of those that just changes quite a bit the more and more that we do those. So, Theo, what's up today, brother?
Not much, man. Just enjoying my Saturday morning with you. Got
You're
my coffee and, just doing the thing,
Cool, man. Well, I wanted to, one of the things that I thought about us talking about during this podcast was a little bit about how we met and how, kind of where you've come from. So I'll just kind of start it off. Theo and I met a couple Halloweens ago, probably, it would have been 2014? 15?
15,
15?
I think so.
And Theo was dressed up as Chubbs.
Probably one of my favorite costumes to play.
That was awesome, man. That was the first time that I met him, and he was going by TJ then, and now he's a little bit more professional, goes by Theo.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I just remember you walking around at that party with your hand just right at your side, just like Chubbs had that entire movie, and even painted it a little darker color to make it look like it was actually
it's
fake.
A fake hand.
But that was awesome. I think I dressed up as a lumberjack that year, which I think I do almost every year now since I have a beard and I wear a lot of flannels.
Yeah.
The only thing missing from my repertoire is an axe, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, so that's how we met, so long ago. Seems like it was so long ago now, and now we're working together. So, Theo, I'll kind of open it up to you. Like, tell your story a little bit as far as where you've come from between personal training and where you're at now.
Yeah. Well, before I started, I did training up in Lisle, Illinois with Bull Sox Academy. Kind of started my whole training and personal training and stuff like that, coaching, and that was with mainly working with kids from they were probably, I think the littlest was like 3rd or 4th grade or something like that to high school graduates. So wide variety of there as far as coaching, and then at North Central College.
Represent.
So, there you go. Shout out NCC. And then for some reason I just wasn't too fond of like living in Chicago, which a lot of times people like wanted to move to Chicago and start their postgraduate life there. But I wanted the city, but I didn't want like that big of a city.
Too busy there?
Yeah, too busy. I didn't want to sit in traffic half my life, So I made the move down to St. Louis, and I knew a couple buddies, Spencer Barr, friend of mine since preschool pretty much. So he went to SLU, and roomed up with him, and then another buddy of mine, Mike Rainbolt, he went to Webster, so it made it easy to kind of find at least have some sort of friends in the city.
Yeah,
in the
man,
new
for
city.
sure.
So, and then just from there, just started working for DFM, doing training, and then I was like, well, I want to kind of do something a little bit different, but still help out people. And then I was like, reached out to you since you're like the social media king here, or the Snapchat king. Or
That's it,
like
Snapchat.
The Snapchat king, and I saw your little snaps on Snapchat, and I was like, dude, I'm gonna reach out to him and see what he's doing. So
Was there a specific Snapchat that you saw that was like, all right, I gotta message Bobby now?
Yeah. I think it was your Missouri State, the kickoff.
Oh, the kickoff from January. I guess it would have been.
Well, what is it, this past January, but the other one.
Was it the summer before?
I think it's the Hawaiian one.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, man, that was a blast. I know I blasted a lot of stuff out on Facebook and a lot of stuff out on Snapchat too. And I mean, one thing that we know how to do is we know how to win and we know how to celebrate our wins. Sometimes a little bit too hard, but
I mean, you still have to. You have to like you said, you have to still celebrate your wins. It's not like it's all serious, and you can't always be like, "Oh, I'm Mr. Insurance guy," So, and that's what kind of attracted me because it's like I'm coming from training, which is like, or a coach, which you still can be professional in that, but it's not like super serious as far as like, oh man, we got deadlines and stuff like that. We still have deadlines, but it's not like as serious as like. I don't know. I think it was good to see that you can still have fun at your job. Is like insurance. A lot of times, like my first thinking was, damn, it's insurance, but you can still have fun and still do work.
Yeah, man. That's one thing that definitely attracted me too, and I didn't even really know what I was getting into whenever I did get back into Aflac, and I've shared my story so many times with so many people, and just to, I guess, have one documented here on this podcast, kind of just let everyone know where I came from. Was I worked for Aflac in college. I was an intern there. I went door pulling downtown, and found Aflac, and I needed an internship for the business school, so I decided to go work with them for 2 years, and I definitely saw the culture from the get-go. As far as it seemed like everyone wanted to have fun, everyone seemed to always be in a good mood, and I know that there were conferences left and right that people were going to, and I got to go to a couple of them with Jeff Satterley, who's now the market trainer in New Mexico. So I saw that for 2 years. I graduated. I got my piece of paper that said, "Hey, Bobby, you can go somewhere and make $40,000." So that's exactly what I did. I got a job with Summers Building Maintenance, which was great right out the gate as far as making $40,000, which I think every kid who graduates is like, yeah, that's what you should go do after you graduate. Just go make $40,000 somewhere and try and move out of mom and dad's house as soon as possible. So I spent 3 years there. I have some awesome stories from that job that I won't share today, but after 3 years there, I just felt like I needed to do something a little bit different. I didn't have the mentor, the leader that I needed to make sure that I was going to be successful, and I wanted something where the sky was the limit, and I could really feel like I was helping people, and I mean, I could be passionate about which urinal screens for my customers to use any day of the week, because no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to be passionate about it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do that anymore, man. It just 15-hour days, 12-hour days, stuff like that. They were not worth it. If I'm going to put all that time into something, I wanted it to be something a lot more meaningful.
Right.
So that's when I ended up meeting up with Alex Miro, who is now the market director for California, San Diego, that market out there, and called him on Mardi Gras. And I was in my office at Wells Fargo at the time. We were the vendor there for Wells Fargo, and I called him on Mardi Gras. It was probably about midday, and he picks up the phone and says, "What's up, Bobby D?" I was like, "Oh, hey man, this is Bobby. I'm just calling because I'm looking for some change in career and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, I'd love to meet with you. I'll call you on Monday. And hung up the phone, and I was like, he's not going to call.
Good luck with that, yeah.
So after that, he ended up calling me on Monday, which he stuck true to his word, and now I'm not surprised whatsoever. And met with him on Tuesday, came into his office, and we talked just a lot about what Aflac was. And I went in with the thought of, I'm not going to go work for Aflac. I hadn't been around it for 3+ years, and I just thought that Alex could be a good center of influence for me. So I wanted to see what other places he could kind of introduce me to, what other jobs I could get. And that's when we started talking Aflac and how we're able to help people, and that's one thing that I've always been very passionate about. So we kind of reverse engineered, all right, this is how much Bobby needs to make in order to keep it parallel with what I was making at my last job, which now that I look back on it, I mean, not that Alex overpromised by any means, but I didn't put in the work to make the money that I wanted to make that first year. So there was definitely a learning curve, but I mean, I appreciate Alex Miro so much for I'm glad that I reached out to him, and I'm glad that he decided to bring me in and he saw some opportunity. So I'll have to have him on here at some point whenever he comes back and visits St. Louis. But so that's how I got. That's how I started with Aflac. That's how I left for a little bit, and that's kind of where I'm back at now, where I'm in a leadership position to make sure that anyone on my team is that they're achieving results, that they're successful, that whatever goals they want to be held accountable to, we hold them accountable to. So, I mean, Theo, as far as this is a good kind of segue into something I want to talk about, is holding yourself accountable, and how do you currently do that, and do you have anyone that helps hold you accountable other than me?
Yeah, it's tough. I'd like definitely the learning curve, just because this is totally new for me, as far as doing the whole the insurance and the exam, the state exam, stuff like that. So I would say, if you're doing this, like for me, what helped me was just kind of teach the exam as like a course, like a 6-week, I don't know how long I took to take mine, but
I think you cruised through yours in like a week and a half.
I didn't.
I thought it was quick.
No, it was like a month.
Never mind.
Like 2 months.
Well,
yeah.
Quicker than I thought. Not as quick as I thought. I mean,
I think it was like a month or so, a month and a half, and I was like, just making sure, because everything was so brand new and learning different terms and stuff like that. So, I think I took a good amount of time to study and make sure I passed my exam, because I didn't want to be like, oh yeah, let's do this, and then I failed.
That was one of my biggest fears, is that I was going to fail that exam and have to call Rusty afterwards and tell him I have to reschedule.
Exactly. So that was like one of the things I was like, I need to pass this on the first try, because paying for the exam and all that stuff was, I wasn't trying to do that. So pass your exam is the biggest one, and make sure you spend as much time as you need on that. And then try, as far as keeping myself accountable, I think it's tough. I definitely think it's you just have to, I think, use to me, what makes me more comfortable is just using the people that I know right now, and reaching out to those people, as far as like, hey, you need to contact these people, or you need to reach out to X amount of people. So using my network as much as possible, like my current network as much as possible, helps me out to make it easier because I'm not the first to talk, but I'll definitely be like, have some input on it. So
sure, man,
it's tough that way.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest thing with insurance and starting a career in this is the confidence behind it, because we're not going to be experts day one. You pass that insurance exam, and then you go start to learn about Aflac, and you're like, this is totally not backwards, but different than what you study.
It's still it's simpler than the exam, though.
I know, 100%.
So like a lot, that was what I was worried about. Is like, damn, I'm gonna have to learn like all this stuff, and even telling some of my friends that are like, oh, you're doing insurance, and they're all like worried. Some of them were, so I was like, and even my mom, she was like, I can't believe. I was like, she was talking to my girlfriend, and it was like, I'm surprised that Theo wants to, or TJ wants to do insurance, and it's like, kind of weird. And I was like, well, I don't know. I'm doing it. So
she hasn't had a chance to see all the fun that you're gonna get.
So.
Yeah.
But,
Shoot, man.
But yeah, so just accountability is huge. So yeah.
Cool, man. So do you have any other? So we came up with this term the other day, accountability buddies.
Accountability buddies.
So we were talking about that a little bit. Do you have any? I mean, I know that I talk to you a lot about your goals and stuff,
right.
but outside of myself, because I mean, you can have a lot of other centers of influence.
Right.
Is there anyone right now that you have as an accountability buddy?
Accountability buddy. I mean, you, and then Rusty, obviously, is
right.
going to be there. Megan, my girlfriend, a little bit. So.
Just a little bit, Megan?
Yeah.
Come on, don't you want to go to Barbados this year?
No, she's just definitely pushing me. She's just definitely keeping me in the right track. So.
That's awesome.
Keeping me in check sometimes.
For sure. We need women like that in our lives. Well, that's awesome, man. So as far as those, I know one thing that I've talked a lot about this week, and I kind of tied it all in yesterday with a video that I posted, but basically talked a lot about video marketing, a lot about centers of influence, and then taking the next steps as far as taking some action in terms of whenever you get help from your centers of influence and say, hey, this is an important thing that you need to do, and then a matter of just going and doing it rather than sitting on it and waiting.
Yeah.
So as far as video marketing, I know I've talked a lot about it this week. Can you talk a little bit about some of the success that you've had with some marketing, maybe both video and just contacting people in different ways?
Yeah. Well, I haven't done anything really as far as like Affleck standpoint, but I used to be very good at, I need to work on that, but I used to be very good at my exercise videos and stuff like that. So putting out, I think as long as you're just putting out something, even if it's like a picture of some sort, or some a short video, I think social media makes it just so easy to just do anything. And for me, just overcoming, because I hated talking in front of the camera. And
until right now,
I guess I'm doing it. This is a good way to do it.
Yeah.
But hated talking in front of the camera, so I would do sometimes a little bit here and there, but it wasn't like as consistent. So, like with anything, just consistency with it, and just being confident that it's not going to be perfect the first time or the second time or the third time, but eventually it's gonna, you're gonna find your way. So I think I need to just keep that in front of me and look at the bigger picture and not look at the short term like fear of like, oh my god,
because no one's gonna like the way that they sound. I might go back and listen to this and think that it's awful, but one thing that my girlfriend might have just been nice to me, but I was recently on a podcast with Wesley Hoffman, the Treehouse Network shop, Wes Hoffman with Friends. Check him out on podcast if you haven't yet. And she said, "Oh, you sound so great. You seem to be talking very smoothly, no likes or ums or buts." And I was listening back to it. I was like, "There was a couple in there, but maybe for the most part, it's okay." Yeah. I guess as long as I don't like stop and there's no words for like a minute, then it's considered winning. Right. But this is, it's an awkward thing to do, and I think that that's the only way that we can really. If we want to expand our following, if we want to reach a lot of different people, then we have to do stuff like this to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. My push was Gary Vee. I've seen a lot of people post stuff on Facebook Live videos, and I don't think I've ever done Facebook Live. I think I did Instagram Live. It was probably a couple months ago. I think I did. Yeah. And I think my biggest push was just hearing about all the success that these other people have had, people that are on Gary Vee's show, and Grant Cardone, Andy Frisella, all these different motivational guys that are constantly talking about pumping out content is the most important thing. So I think that was my biggest push. And then I had a significant push whenever John Davis, and he's probably going to be upset that he wasn't on the first ever whatever the name of this podcast is, but he called me just so pumped up about this. And I guess a couple days before, and you guys might have seen my Facebook post that I had met with TJ Moe from Take No Offense podcast and his 590 show, and obviously former Mizzou wide receiver. And as soon as John called me on that and it was like, hey man, I want to start doing this, and that day I was like, screw it, we're freaking doing this, man. So I put out that video. I used that app called Magisto, if that's how it's actually pronounced, I'm not sure, Magisto, and I've been able to, I would film less than a minute of content so I could post it on Instagram, and then literally just selected a couple pictures from my library and then clicked the button, added some Dave Matthews background music,
of course.
And of course, yeah, and it was done, and it was super easy. And video nowadays is such an easy way to get people to stop and listen and watch. But I mean, I'm the same way as a lot of, I mean, I am a millennial. We are millennials, right. But with that next generation Z, is that what they're called? Generation Z?
The digital age.
Is that really the name of it?
Because
I have no idea.
They don't, I think it's something along the lines, they haven't grown up with anything but something digital.
That makes sense.
Their books are digital, their music's digital. They don't have any like CDs.
Right.
There are still CDs, but they don't. I am.
Oh my gosh! I literally stopped at the store the other day. Lily Narrett, Jennifer's daughter, who will probably listen to this at some point, or maybe not, because the point I was about to make was anything less than 60 seconds, pretty much anyone in that generation would not consume. So I need to break this little spot down for her right here. But I stopped and I was thinking, all right, I'm gonna look for like a CD. Like, wouldn't it be cool if Lily had like a Demi Lovato CD? And I was like, she doesn't have anything to put that in except for in the car, which a lot of cars don't even have
CDs.
Yeah. I think mine still does, but I might have a CD in there. And
I still have my 5-changer.
Nice.
5-disc.
Ooh, dope. But oh gosh, like, and it's so crazy to think that everything. I mean, how much. Everything's changed between social media and the way that we consume information now as consumers, whether it be via social media or anything else. And that's when so to make a long story long, I think that my biggest push was John Davis, and then I knew I was meeting up with TJ Moe later in the week, and I wanted to make sure that I had some stuff ready, because if I got there, sat down with TJ, and he was like, well, what have you done so far, man? I'd be like, nothing. And he'd be like, well, why are we meeting? So I wanted to start, and it's only been 3 days of putting out stuff. This is day 4, and I really just see this as a good opportunity to like just get our thoughts out there and help with people, whether it be insurance or whether we're just having a conversation about stuff that people are interested in. Like I said, and I said this to TJ too, I don't know where my like narrow focus is going to be, so I feel like it's going to be a lot of all over the place until we get to a point where it's like, oh, this would be a really good thing, like we should have this narrow focus on this podcast. Maybe you get to the point where you have 5 podcasts that focus on 5 different things. But so that was my push. Theo, what was your biggest, so why are you here?
I just see the reward is a lot greater than, the reward's going to out trump the my
awkwardness.
Fear. The awkwardness, my fear or whatever. So, like we're talking about how much video can reach, all the reach with the content and stuff like that. It's greater. So that's why I'm here, basically, because I know it works.
Awesome, man. That's really cool. I'm super excited to do this kind of stuff here. So as far as accountability goes, I like to I did this the other day, and I just want to get some firm commitments from you and from myself, and we'll be super accountability buddies,
okay.
both on the Aflac side and on the content side.
All right.
So, because I mean, we know what our goals are as far as Aflac's concerned, but
Right.
I want to be able to, and my brother's probably going to be upset that he's not here either, because he's supposed to be one of my accountability buddies as well. I'm trying to get as many accountability buddies as possible. Just because then that way they'll at least watch my content and I'll get one more view. And maybe they'll share it or like it or comment.
Right.
But, so as far as content goes, do you have goals of what you want to put out each day?
I do not. I need to though.
Tell me about it. Tell me what you're going to do.
Right.
Do you want me to go first and you can think about it?
Yeah,
All right. So I want to put out one of those short 60-second videos that I've done the last 3 days.
Yeah.
I want to do one of those every day. I don't think I'm going to do anything on the weekend right now. I might, but I'm going to commit to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, putting something out each day. I think that the toughest thing with that is putting out something at a consistent time. Because I think I put out, the last 3 days, I put out stuff, and I think one was around lunchtime, and then I can't remember what the second one was, but I know yesterday I didn't post it until 6 o'clock whenever I was in the Twin Peaks parking lot in Maplewood. And yes, I did go to Twin Peaks, and my girlfriend met me there, so don't say anything bad. And I filmed it there real quick, so I think my goal would be to maybe film some of that stuff, so like the day before, so I can pump out that stuff early in the morning to make sure that people can see it. So I'm going to go ahead and commit to one of those Magisto 60-second videos every day before noon.
Gotcha.
I'm not going to go as aggressive as Steve Albers, who's puts his out by, I think his is 8 a.m. every day. Do you follow his yet? All right, you'll have to send him a friend request.
Okay.
He'll accept it.
Okay.
And so, one sec. So yeah, I think it'd be a good idea for you to follow him on there because he's very consistent with what he does every single day. He does a vlog every single day that's out there by 8 a.m. He has a daily Instagram blog where he posts a picture and has he writes a lot of stuff on it, and then he also, I don't know if he's doing any sort of a podcast or anything yet, but he's doing a great job with all this stuff, and he was definitely one of my inspirations to start this. And before, all I knew him as was the owner of Center Ice Brewery, and of course being an Aflac guy, I'm like, yeah, I want to meet anyone who owns a business because there's a potential there. But one of the things that Steve talked about is just providing value, jab, 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 right hook, providing little bits of value. So I want to bring some value to Steve before we were to even talk about something like that, and that's something that I see that we can accomplish with these podcasts and all this other stuff. So back to what everyone's holding me accountable for is a daily video posted before noon on Magisto. I want to start off doing at least one podcast per week. I think we could probably do more, but I mean, Saturday morning, this was kind of an easy one before I go play in this golf tournament here at noon today. And then other than that, I think I want to put out maybe some vlogs too. Like, I mean, we have the video running here for the podcast, but maybe something that's a little bit more structured, and it's just a matter of finding an app or a program and putting money into it so I can make it look pretty. But until then, we're just going to pump out some content every single day.
Right.
So Theo, I gave you a lot of time to think about it because I'm talkative and annoying.
I would say for me, I'm gonna get some wins under my belt. I'm gonna make it a little bit easier for me.
Do it.
So I kind of do like a Monday motivation already on Instagram. So
I see that.
I'll start or keep doing that. I need to get back to my weekend workout. I think that'll help.
Like just working out on the weekend, or is it my weekend workout post?
That too. Just doing some sort of activity. But I used to do weekend workouts I would post it on Friday, and it'd be like a little workout for people to do.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I want to get back into doing that. Cause
that would help me too.
And then I think another one would be I want to do something like midday or midweek. So maybe like a Wednesday.
Hump day with Theo. I don't know. There's
Wednesday
something.
Hump Hustle. Wednesday, I don't know.
Nope, that's the name of it now. Hashtag Hump Hustle. Humsel.
We're gonna combine words. Yeah, no.
The possible.
Something about more about. I'm gonna gear that one more towards like business and
A little bit more towards athletic.
marketing, stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think 3 times a week. I think that should be
Cool, man.
pretty easy.
So 3 times a week, looking for like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday kind of deal.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I think you got to start somewhere, and
Exactly.
and I think that we've been doing a lot of this for a long time, but we haven't really had a strategy behind it. And I know one thing that I'm going to talk about maybe next week and during those Magisto videos that I put out is how to gain that following. Because that's the toughest thing, and that's one thing that I talked about with TJ for quite a bit of time. Was he asked me what my focus was, and I was like, I don't know, and he's like, you gotta get a focus.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be connecting people, leading people, talk about leadership, whatever it might be. But until then, just get the biggest thing that you could be missing is a following.
Right.
So for TJ, it was easy for him. Now I'm going to get confused for TJ Mo, because I guess mom might be watching
I go by TJ sometimes.
at home.
Yeah.
So talked about following for him, and I mean, he already had a few thousand followers whenever he was a Mizzou football player, and then we talked about how he was tweeting during the Mizzou protest, and he actually was on CNN, and then he was also on one of those other financial network channels talking about something as well due to the tweets that he had put out, and he said that he'd gained 10,000 followers overnight. So next week it's going to be a lot of focus around how you actually build that following, and just a lot of it I haven't even implemented myself. So like that Gary V $1.80 Instagram strategy. Yeah. I know my brother Nick Drummond's been doing that quite a bit for.
I've been doing that a little bit too.
Nice.
Yeah.
For his company Nick Picks, and so I guess Theo, has that worked? That $1.80 Instagram strategy?
Yeah, I think it just comes back to I think what he said in that was just being social on social media.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people are just like, oh, throw a like and not say anything about it, or I think it's just more about
engaging the audience, right?
Yeah.
Cool, man. That's one thing that I'm working on too, because there's so many different platforms, and we're never going to be short as far as platforms are concerned. I mean, there will always be Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, but there's always going to be new ones coming around between this Magisto app that I'm using, or some Marco Polo. I do a lot of back and forth with my team on that.
Marco Polo.
Marco Polo?
No.
Oh, you have to download that. I actually talk with Casey Brown on it all the time. We send messages back and forth to each other. It's like Snapchat, but it saves.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's pretty. I like it just because you have all of those conversations right there. Oh, that'd be cool if you could utilize Marco Polo and turn that into a podcast, because it literally you click start, and then a video runs, and I'm able to look at the camera and be like, "What's up, Theo? It's Bobby here. Want to see how your day's going? Blah blah blah." That'd be really cool if you could transfer that into a podcast, because it's literally just like some sort of video content. It's just. It'd be like me, and then whatever Theo says in response, then me, then Theo, and go back and forth. So I guess that's why it's called Marco Polo. I don't really know. But yeah, I thought that'd be an awesome idea for us to do possibly as a team as well. So yeah, guys, Theo, I mean, I think that we've kind of 33 minutes is a good amount of time. I didn't know if we'd have enough stuff to talk about, but I think once we get going, guys, we had no plan as far as what today was. I wasn't even gonna no scripts. I wasn't even gonna ask Theo what he wanted to talk about, because I just wanted to start with something and then see where it developed from there. So some takeaways for today is now you know who Theo is. You know a little bit more about my story, and talked a little bit about video marketing and the importance of that. So as far as next time, guys, I think that we'll be talking a little bit more maybe about how you can increase some of your followers on social media and actually have it look real in terms of not just Gary Vee saying, hey, if you do this, it works, but documenting it and saying, hey, at the beginning on Monday, Bobby started with 500 followers, and after implementing the $1.80 Gary V strategy, he went from 500 to 700 in 1 week.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. We'll talk about that next time, and until then, have a great weekend. Deuces.
Later.